Hello and welcome to Juggling Hats and Homes, the podcast for letting agents, estate agents, and a little bit of juggling parenthood in between and other things that are going on in the world of property. My name is 𝗃𝗴𝗴𝗹𝗶. I'm Group Lettings Director for Andrews Property Group and President-elect of Isla Property Mark. And this is...
I'm Alex Tan and I'm the Regional Sales Director for Andrews Property Group.
So, good to see you, Alex.
Great to see you, Harry, as always.
As always. So, as these normally go, let's do a brief sort of overview of what is happening in the world of estate agency and lettings at the moment. So, Alex, over to you. How are things going in sales right now?
Well, it's interesting, Harry. Very interesting time. So we had a flying start to Q1, really a lot of activity. Amongst the market, a good appetite, and it seemed to have a really good buzz about it. May, a bit different. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's not great. It seems very steady at the moment. I don't know whether it's a case of that we've got 2 bank holidays on the horizon, half terms. We spoke historically at how the seasonality really kicks in on the estate agency side. I know it does in lettings as well, but I think that we're a bit more exposed to it sometimes, and we're feeling it at the moment. And I have looked at obviously women in property Facebook groups and other forums where people are encountering the same thing, saying, have people's viewings dropped off a cliff? And it's just interesting to read the comments and what people are experiencing, but it does seem to be a bit of a common theme at the moment. But it's being able to look at the diaries, because when we look at it, we like to have them rammed full of appointments, but it's also making sure that those people that are out viewing, they are motivated. I'm not saying that everybody that's out viewing aren't genuine and have an intention to actually buy, but what we're finding is that the people that are out there, they are offering. So maybe it's our perception as agents rather than the reality.
Yeah, because I saw one of those posts in the Women in Estate Agency group end of last week, I think, where somebody said, anyone else thinking that it's dead out there at the moment? And there were loads of people commenting saying it was really quiet. And do you think it's quiet from a lack of viewings or quiet from a lack of offers, or both?
It's a bit of a combination of both, I would say. When I actually look at where we are in terms of sales, we're tracking where we should be. So that's why it's interesting. And it's a really good question, because I think, is it actually our perception in terms of how we're actually looking at the diaries, looking at the activity? Because really, when I look at the offers that are coming in, they are there's a lot of motivated people. So really, I think it is our perception as agents rather than the reality. But there's a lot of scaremongering in the media, because you've got the base rate, which held again, frustratingly, talk of the up and coming elections. So mortgage rates on the increase. So there's quite a few factors externally that will affect public perception of whether they hold tight and they wait until the election. So that could have a bearing. But coming back to your original question, Harry, really, we're okay. We actually are okay and where we should be. So maybe it's just us agents overreacting, potentially.
Maybe, yeah. I think there's talk of sort of the rates being lowered later in the year, isn't there? So do we think that might be affecting potential buyers coming forward? What are we thinking about vendors, about listings? Are we still getting a good amount of those coming to market?
We are, although I would say that it's dropped back a bit when you look at the actual initial real, like, in terms of how many vows we had at the beginning of the year versus now. We had a lot of just curious people as well that look. So it's being able to look at if those people are actually asking and inviting us out, are they motivated, or are they just looking for a figure just because they're curious and testing the water? So I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's being able to flip it to see the motivation and the actual outcomes that we're getting from the appointments. But I would say that we're okay. I think we just had a real buzz and a real flurry. But then equally, so were we being busy fools? That old chestnut and that old saying, were we being busy fools? We love to see a full diary, but if your viewing to sale ratio is extortionately high, then you have to question in terms of the intentions of the people that we're out viewing with as well. So it's a mixed bag, but I think this is because we've had so much activity, we've been so crazy busy. But then in periods like this, Harry, it's really nice to be able to actually sit back, have that moment of breathing space, be proactive. Whereas a lot of the time we're reactive in terms of things that are happening, rather than actually being a proactive and proper estate agent.
Yeah, letting the bus drive you rather than driving the bus.
Precisely that, exactly. What about in the world of lettings? What's happening on your side?
Yeah, so we've had a busy month so far for May, and we've still got 2 weeks left, which is fantastic. May feels really long, which is good, and we are looking like we've got lots of activity coming through in terms of we're sorting out our sort of summer lets at the moment. So we've got lots of student tenancies moving in over the summer, so those pipelines for the summer are building. May's looking really good as well, which is really positive. Getting a lot of positivity from the teams about tenants out there that are looking, landlords that are bringing their properties to market ready for the busy summer months. So I think in lettings, yeah, it's good. We started off the year really strong. We got a little bit quiet towards the end of quarter 1, and then we've started to heat up again now, which is fantastic. Rents, I mean, in terms of market stats, rents are continuing to go up. I saw some stats that said they're up Zoopla said up 7.2% year on year, whereas the ONS was slightly higher at just over 9%. Which is interesting. Zoopla thinks the market is going to be cooling this year, but the rents are continuing to go up. So the average rent now across the UK is 1,223, which seems massive when I can think about, just over 2 years ago, standing there and saying that average rents were going to peak over £1,000. So it seems to have grown really quickly in the last few years. In terms of the areas that we cover in Andrews, London rents are up to 2,121, which is massive for London, and then Southwest just over 1,000, and so Southeast. So rents are continuing to go up, but not as bad. I saw an article this morning about Scotland. So Scotland had rent control. So this is when people say to me, what can we do about rents? They're going up so fast. And then people say you need to bring in rent controls. I use the example of failed rent control systems because there aren't any rent control systems that have worked. And one of the ones that's close to home right now is Scotland. And their rents are up 16.5% in a year because they've had rent controls, but it's just recently been loosened a bit. And some towns in Scotland it's up by 20%. So it almost seems like a bit of a bargain when you look at our 7.6 that when Scotland's up that high. So it really does show that rent controls are not always the answer, and actually we need to be looking at the supply issue. That's what's driving those rents up. If we can resolve the supply problem and bring more properties into the rental industry, then that will level out those rents. So yeah, good, interesting times as always for lettings. Rental reform bill still making its way now through the House of Lords. We had some amendments at the end of April as it finished its route around the House of Commons. So as it makes its way through the House of Lords now, we'll probably see some more amendments, which is interesting, which I'll be talking about at our seminar at the end of the month. So looking forward to that. So yeah, interesting market right now really for lettings, and we work very closely with sales as well, don't we? And we are seeing more properties go over to your side to sales than they were last year. But obviously my team are hot on them, and if they don't sell, they're trying to get them back as quickly as they can.
I know, give and take, isn't it, Harry? I am very much looking forward to the 30th.
Yes, landlord seminar, which is good. Going to be one of our first for a little while, so tickets are selling fast. There's not that many spaces left, so if there's anyone who's watching this who wants to come along, then make sure you look at the Eventbrite and book that ticket, because they'll be gone soon, which is good.
Nice plug there, Harry.
So lastly, just wanted to talk to you about, so last week was National Mental Health Week, World Mental Health Week, and just wanted to talk to you about mental health and well-being in your life, in the workplace. What do you, okay, first question, why do you think it's important that people are open about their mental health these days? Why do you think we need to do that?
I think when you are open, and it depends how much information you want to volunteer, I think in the first instance, but so long as somebody knows that you're not coping, or you're not yourself, or you're not feeling great, or there's some issues going on, then your friends, your family, your line managers, they can help and support you. And I think it's really key in terms of being in tune to that, because there's so many times where people don't want to talk about it, or they don't, and that's absolutely fine. But I think so long as you're aware that you can try and support in some capacity, because there's so many different ends of the spectrum in terms of what that looks like. But just being aware, because we're so busy, aren't we, in terms of our environment and the expectations of each and every individual, us as well, really, Harry, in terms of what we're doing, but being mindful of everybody else. It's easier said than done, because some things really do go under the radar and people don't like to admit it if they're struggling, or they're not, again, or they're not of a mental state, for example. So it's being able to see if there are any signs, but also to invite people to voluntarily say they're not having a good day, and that's okay. And it's being able to see what we can do to support.
Yeah, I think it's really important that if you are going through a rough time, that you talk to someone, whether that is friends, family, you know, whoever you can talk to, your employer. There's lots of solutions out there to give you someone to talk to, even if you don't think you can talk to someone in your sort of immediate circle. And I think I know it's hard sometimes, but it's really important to try and be open with your employer, because your employer can then be more understanding. They can make adjustments if necessary. They can support you through what you're going through to try and help you come out the other side. And I think they can just be so much more understanding. Like I've had in the past where I've had members of my team where they've been going through something but they haven't spoken to me about it, and I've been really sort of like, what is happening here? But as soon as they opened up to me and explained what was going on, I had more understanding, more compassion. I could support them. I could give them, you know, a bit of take some things off them to give them a bit of relief. I just think it's really important. I know it's really hard sometimes with your employee if you don't necessarily have that sort of relationship, but I think really important if you are going through something is to talk to someone about it and try and be as open, because then you can get the support that you need to get through those difficult times. We all have them. And it's by relying on the people around us and getting that support that we manage to come through them, really.
Definitely. I think because it's people are so more so aware now, and they talk about it, and I think that's so much better than historically years ago. You know, not that it would be frowned upon, but now that we've got our employee assistance program within groups, so if you don't feel comfortable speaking to your line manager, there's an external company that we work with in Andrew that you could speak to. But like you said, if people know, then you can operate and you can obviously support them in whichever way that they need to, because you never know in terms of what's happening with people behind closed doors, really. I think that's really key, like you said.
Yeah. In terms of like managing your own mental health, we also have to take steps ourselves, don't we, to try and keep our mental health as healthy as possible. What do you do, Alex, to maintain your healthy mental health and well-being?
Well, it's interesting because it's so tricky as a parent, as a mum, as a working mum, isn't it? Because you always put yourself last, it feels, and it's being able to make sure you spend time for yourself. And the other day, it was really nice actually, because I had a day literally to myself. Daughter was at school, and I was like, okay, I'm going to literally go for a dog walk and meet with one of my friends. So I met with one of my friends, Tori, who I haven't seen in ages, and it was so nice just to get out and just do something for me, because you just forget, don't you? It's just like a whirlwind, and you think there's so much you've got going on, but actually you're no good to anybody if you actually don't take time. And again, pouring from an empty cup, you know, that old saying, but it is so true. And loom bands. Loom bands is my new favourite thing. So my daughter is obsessed with making them, and it's really therapeutic. And it feels like it's something that we do together. So we sit together and we do these loom bands. It's great. I highly recommend. Highly recommend.
Do you think that's because? Do you think it's some time where you are just concentrating on that and not thinking about other things? I think we all need to have those things, don't we? Where work is so busy, it's so full on. You know, a lot of us work really long hours, which I'm not advocating, but sometimes you need to get it done. And sometimes you can feel, I certainly feel that I'm thinking about work, and then I'm sleeping. And then I'm thinking about work, and then I'm sleeping. So sometimes you need to bring your mind to something else and think about that rather than just work all the time. So that's your loom bands. I've never made a loom band. Clearly I'm missing out.
honestly, they're all the rage, Harry. I love them. What about you? What do you do?
So for me, I love to run. And I get really sad if I don't have enough time to run. So like last week, I was doing some really long hours last week, and I didn't have any time in the week to run because I was getting home at like 8 o'clock, so it was already like too late. And I really felt it by the end of the week. I was like, I just need to go out and run. I need to, because for me, it is, and I don't run very far, and I definitely don't run very fast, but for me, it is just some time where I'm not thinking about anything other than how do I not die for the next 5 minutes while I run. That's all I think about. I just think about, right, get to that next lamppost and then get to that next signpost, and because I'm doing that, everything else just melts away. I do listen to podcasts and I do listen to music as well, so that takes my mind off things as well. But it just really, I can have the most stressful day ever, and if I can go out for a run, by the time I come back, I've processed it all, I've stopped like worrying about it, I've stopped thinking about it, and I come back a different person. So yeah, for me it is just having that time, whether it's just half an hour, just to, for me really, to go and just chill out. So yeah, for me it's running.
Love
Which
that.
sounds weird sometimes, but
No, not at all. Who's on your playlist? Out of interest.
I have various different playlists depending on the day that I've had. So I have like a generic running playlist, which is just like quite a lot of like high tempo, like dance music that I just add to whenever I find a new song, and I just have it on shuffle. And then I have like an angry playlist if I've had like a bad day. I've got like some heavy, it's got like System of a Down and Rage Against the Machine. So that one, if I play that one, I've had a bad day. And then I've been listening to I really like true crime podcasts. So I've been listening to this one called Serial, which is really good. So yeah, lots of different things depending on my mood, really. Hoping not the angry one too much.
Nothing wrong with that. Balanced.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's so nice to be able to get out amongst it. Some of your best ideas happen when you're outdoors and you literally have yourself on that escapism. So we've been doing Walk This May, haven't we, Harry,
Yes.
with Andrews for
Yeah.
15 million steps across the group. And I've been hosting some meetings outdoors with my team.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
It's been amazing. It really has just changed the whole dynamic of the meetings, and we've been really fortunate with the weather, but it's just been amazing, and I really recommend it to switch up. I'm going to definitely incorporate it more in my meetings, just to switch things up. Otherwise it's bog standard Groundhog Day, monotonous, isn't it, in terms of you sit there, you have your one-to-ones, you go through your stats, you talk about, again, the ins and outs of the individual and the business, but it just puts a completely different spin. I've loved it.
Yeah, I'm going to take a leaf out of your book, Alex, and see if I can make some of my meetings this week walking meetings out in the sunshine. I'm going to have a look straight after this.
Yeah. Do it, Harry. Do it. Love it.
Oh, well, thanks, Alex. Good to talk to you again. And we'll be back again in a month to have a look at the rental market and the sales market and some other things that are going on in the world of property. So, yeah, thanks very much. And if anyone's got any things they want us to talk about, drop them in a comment underneath this post. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Harry.
Bye.
Bye.